Good morning, Rowdy.
What's so good about it?
My name is Rowdy C. Yes, that's my real name as far as you're concerned. These are my feline companions. They help produce my internet show, and they fight evil mad scientists in their spare time. We used to live deep in the heart of Texas, but now we slum it in a trailer park in SoCal. Yeah, all of this is in a tent, believe it or not. My genie helps make the place feel more homey. You don't see much of her, she's kinda camera shy. Besides, you'd burn out your retinas if you looked at her too long. Why yes, I am quite insane. You have to be in order to do what I do. When you're an internet critic, you have to watch the absolute worst pieces of media ever made and then rake them over the coals with more venomous wit than George Carlin on speed. Most of my colleagues usually take on one movie at a time, but I have to tackle episode after episode of the worst TV shows ever made. And yet, while so many of us are dropping like flies from burnout or seeing their reputations shattered, I'm still going strong. Why? Because nothing phases me. Hello?
Do you like to be frightened?
Not particularly.
But you do like watching bad TV shows, right?
Well, it's my job, so I'm not sure exactly how much I like it.
Well, I would look in the bottom of the pile if I were you.
Do you know what would happen when you take Glee, Clueless, Mean Girls, Veronica Mars, a Wes Craven movie, and every teen thriller from the 90s and mix them all together in a blender with bath salts thrown in? You'd get freaking Scream Queens! The creators of Glee are busy boys. You definitely can't accuse them of being slackers in the world of TV production, especially not Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. Consider, those two were still writing episodes of Nip Tuck when Glee began production. In the middle of that show's run, not only were Murphy and Ian Brennan judges on the Oxygen Network reality spin-off The Glee Project, but Murphy teamed up with another Glee producer, Ali Adler, to create the brief NBC sitcom The New Normal. And before that, he and Falchuk created the horror anthology series American Horror Story for FX. That show must have caught the eye of someone important in Murdoch land, because as Glee was preparing for its final season in October 2014, the three creators were given the green light to create another horror anthology series for the big network, which premiered just 6 months after Glee's final episode aired. This show, however, would be slightly different from American Horror Story, because one, unlike most anthology series, there would be regular characters that crossed over from one season to the next, and two, this show would have, shall we say, a more whimsical side to it. And hey, you sure as hell can't claim these writers don't have the courage to take on a high-concept project like this. I mean, they took something like Glee and dragged it 3 years longer than it should have lasted. How did this thing fare? Strap yourselves in, kiddies, as we head down the crazy train that is Scream Queens. We open in the year 1995, where this sorority is hosting their version of a kegger, only for its top sisters to discover a real downer. One of them gave birth in a bathtub upstairs, even though she didn't even know she was pregnant. Spoilers, she's not going to be the dumbest character in this show. And then she dies because the sisters left her there due to their president's favorite song being played. Hey, it could have been worse. If they had left her for You Ought to Know, I would definitely accuse that bitch of being the Antichrist.
She's dead. Okay, what the hell are we gonna do?
Fast forward 20 years where we meet...
Good morning, Slits.
Good morning, Chanel.
My name is Chanel Oberlin, and I am the queen of Kappa Kappa Tau. These are my minions. I don't know their names. I don't want to know their names.
Less than 5 minutes in and you make me want to see this character get killed horribly. She's not gonna get killed horribly, is she? Chanel Oberlin here is basically if Sharpay Evans took 1980s pro wrestler levels of bitch bag steroids. And yes, she's played by Emma Roberts, who must have really wanted to avoid the America's Sweetheart typecast that Auntie Julia got stuck with. But all is not well with the future Stepford Wives of America, as the Dean of Students is out to get them kicked off campus using the ammo of how Chanel's predecessor as KKT president was horribly disfigured due to acid being slipped into the spray tan she was using to try to make herself look black. Good night, everybody! But Chanel and the Kappas get bailed out by their national president, Gigi Caldwell, who is basically 90s kids' sex fantasy.
My therapist says I had a traumatic experience that kept part of my psyche forever trapped in the 90s. But I'm like, I'll take it.
And essentially agrees to enforce diversity on the Kappas by making them accept all pledges. Topical! This just continues to be a disaster for Chanel, as it supposedly threatens not just her future as a TV news anchor, but her chances of nabbing a rich husband like Chad Radwell here, who's a member of a golfing fraternity and who Chanel is constantly blue-balling. Hence why Chad is boinking pretty much everyone else on campus, including the dean. Oh, and he's also a necrophiliac, just to make absolutely sure we're not supposed to like him. By the way, the dean, who yes is played by horror legend Jamie Lee Curtis, is named Kathy Munch. And so one of the worst parts of this show for me now is that they never once say she has a brother working for the NYPD Special Victims Unit. Seriously, she even looks like a gender-flipped Richard Belzer here. No flaming comments, you know damn well Richard Belzer was the best damn thing in that show. Moving on. That brings us to the other main character of the show, Grace Gardner. A freshman who wants to pledge the Kappas because her late mother was one. Yeah, her mother died when she was very young.
Hey, why don't you join with me? Girl, I'd rather die. Oh, come on. This is gonna be a year of infinite possibilities. I can feel it. And if you're serious about becoming president someday, becoming president of Kappa is not a bad place to start.
Things start going awry when Chanel tries to enlist the housemaid to help scare away the unwanted pledges, only to later see there's an effigy shrine to her in the maid's bedroom, so she loses it and dunks the maid's face in the kitchen deep fryer. This does not go well. So now the maid's dead and Chanel orders everyone to help cover it up by storing the body in a meat locker that surely no one uses and thus wouldn't find the body just laying there. Because she got blackmailed into going along with it, Grace then turns to Pete Martinez, a barista slash investigative reporter, who she then takes to see the body, only to find, surprise, surprise, it's gone! Yeah, I wouldn't eat the mystery meat being served at the student union for quite a while.
Oh my god, she's alive. Miss Bean's alive.
You are made of stupid.
And then, because they could only afford Ariana Grande for one episode, Chanel number 2 gets killed by someone dressed as Satan as they exchange text messages, even as the killing takes place. Damn it, where is that number Test Zero gave me to order crazy pills in bulk? Then the devil killer beheads one of the pledges with a riding mower as the pledges were all buried heads up in the lawn in a hazing practice. Okay, writers, please don't steal any more plot elements from Caligula. As the dean breathes even further down their necks, Chanel agrees to have all the pledges live in the house for protection, while Gigi hires a security guard. Who does she bring in?
Denise Hempfield's going to make damn sure that everybody in Kappa House is safe and sound until that killer is brought to justice. If you are in danger, scream Denise Hempfield's name real loud. I will be on the premises at all times, and I will come a-running.
We're screwed.
As Grace investigates further, she discovers a secret room in the house where the old bathtub is hidden, so Chanel tells her the whole legend of the sister who died giving birth 20 years ago, and that Munch helped the girls cover the whole thing up.
What happened to the baby?
I wonder. This couldn't be more of a red herring if you turned it into a cape and waved it at a ball. And then Grace discovers Pete has the costume of the killer, which is apparently the costume of the school mascot until they replace it with an ice cream cone later in the season. And yes, Grace regains Pete's trust by the next episode, so that whole thing was pointless. Maybe. Okay, to finish up the first episode, the devil then kills Denise's partner, while this member of the golf frat named Boone kills himself, supposedly because Chanel was going to out him as being gay, only as the episode closes.
What took you so long?
Oh yes, everyone! All of that was just in the 2-part pilot! You wanna pause this video and go get more booze? Thankfully, this is only a 13-episode season, so I'm going to try to sum up the rest of it as quickly as possible, as even with that relatively low number, there's a lot to process. Chanel actually takes in one of the pledges named Hester as a new minion, and gives her a full she's all that level makeover, because I guess Fox didn't want Leia Michelle hidden underneath a neck brace for the entire season. Grace's father becomes obsessed with trying to guard her to the point where he tries to teach one of her classes, and he ultimately hooks up with Gigi. Yeah, you know what they say about the crazy chicks. When the killer starts attacking people with a chainsaw, this drives Denise to believe the killer is Grace's friend and fellow pledge Zayday, since Zayday apparently owns a chainsaw. Why didn't you just call her Renisha Williams and get it over with? And Emma Roberts was afraid she'd be a typecast. While Grace and Pete track down one of the girls from 1995 named Mandy, who tells them Munch had the body buried and ordered all the girls to leave the school while giving the baby away. And then Mandy is killed by the Red Devil, while Grace and Pete come to believe the baby was given to this legendary hag of Shady Lane, who the audience is shown is actually Gigi! Oh, it gets better, because it turns out Gigi has been the one giving orders to the Red Devil from the beginning. So while Chanel keeps trying things to supposedly protect the girls, like giving them all pink nunchucks and getting them to dress like Nancy Drew, I'm sure that's not a reference to anything at all. More people begin to suspect Munch of being the killer, especially once her ex-husband turns up dead after it was revealed he'd been having an affair with a student. She's eventually cleared of the charges, and the student gets sent to the asylum for the death, but everyone continues to suspect Munch of being the serial killer. They drag that plot element through much of the season's second half, and this is where the story really starts to get frustrating, because even though it's revealed that Munch did actually kill her husband and set up the student to take the fall, she still can't be the Red Devil killer. Why? Because by now it's essentially deduced that the killers are the two babies from the bathtub 20 years ago, acting under the orders of Gigi. Oh yeah, at this point it's been revealed that there were actually twins born that night in 95, a boy and a girl. The boy is clearly Boone, the frat boy who faked his death and has now been walking around campus disguised as Joaquin Phoenix until he Ray and Gigi appear to get killed by the other twin. Yeah, more on that in a bit. So the lone question after about the 9th episode is who the girl twin is. Pete finally admits to Grace that he knows who the final killer is, because he's been complying with the killers all this time. In fact, not only had he killed one of the other 2 frat boys who died, but he was the one who actually killed Boone for real and attacked the Chanels in a shopping mall on Black Friday. Trust me, I wish my brain was functioning enough to make a radio dead air joke there. It's at this point that you pretty much have to accept one very frustrating truth. Almost every single character in this show is horrible! Okay, Chanel and her lackeys have always been major bitch bags that you want to see get some level of comeuppance for their attitudes in the end. But Munch is no better. She has been trying to destroy the Kappas from the inside because of her own personal pettiness and guilt that she took part in a criminal cover-up 2 decades ago to save her own ass and career. I know people won't like me using a term like this, but Munch is the prototypical social justice warrior. An extreme leftist who thinks she's morally better than everyone else and the only person who can make the world a better place, and thus is willing to stoop to her own duplicitous tactics to accomplish her goals, believing the ends justify the means. She pretty much has the exact same objective and motives as the killers. And now we've just found out that Pete is in the exact same boat, having willingly worked with the killers because he has gone so far as to believe the murders are justified because of his own hatred for the Greek system. We are some god-awful animation away from turning this thing into Mr. Pickles! The only person in this whole show to have constantly maintained any level of likability is Grace, as she not only has always wanted to fix KKT out of care, but has maintained her idealism that none of what these people have done is justifiable, and that only by actually being the good person and making the right decisions, even if it's tough and not always what you want to do, is how you remain the better person. And as to whether she'll get what she wants in the end, oh, we'll get there. Pete says the killer is one of the Kappa sisters, but of course he gets killed before he can say her name. And then the devil lets Grace live for some reason. Meanwhile, Chanel, who tried to kill Hester earlier, Hester was trying to steal Chad from her by faking a pregnancy. She then plots to kill Munch because she's convinced she's the killer, only to then believe her old predecessor that got deformed by the acid is the killer. Just roll with it, we're in the home stretch here. But Grace and Zayday finally get into Munch's files to find one sister clearly faked her entire application to the school, Hester. But when they go to confront Hester...
Oh my god. Red Devil!
Okay. It's at this point in the show that I was watching where the climax and reveal I thought they were about to do, I figured I'd seen coming. The one thing I kept telling myself as I went through each episode was, assume it's going to be who no one is meant to suspect. Call it just what I expected after dealing with Veronica Mars and Twin Peaks. So I wasn't surprised at all when Pete said the final killer was a Kappa, as I always suspected it was going to be one of Chanel's lackeys. My money was on it revealed to be number 3 in the end, because up to now, Hester seemed the most likely to do it, while number 5 had the most motive for getting the most vocal abuse from Chanel. So I actually went into the final episode expecting that there would still be a swerve and number 3 would be revealed to be the killer in the end. What did we get instead?
Hi, it's me, Hester. You may have noticed my eye patch. It's temporary. The advantage of stabbing yourself in the eye with a stiletto heel is that you know just where to jab it in order to miss the important organs, like your optic nerve or your brain. You might have noticed that I'm the only Chanel left. That's because I got away with it. It was a plan 20 years in the making, and it worked.
Yes, Hester was the twin sister and the killer all along. And yes, she completely gets away with it by accusing the 3 remaining Chanels of being the killers and getting them sentenced to life in a mental institution. And even Grace eventually just runs with it because it supposedly leads to what she wanted in KKT becoming more open, diverse, and friendly. Not only that, Munch comes to realize it was Hester all along, but of course she won't say anything because she'd only implicate herself in what happened 20 years before. So yeah, am I happy that the Chanels appeared to have gotten what was coming to them? No, I'm not! Murphy, Falchuk, you played us! You played us from the beginning! This was a freaking monkey's paw ending! Murphy and company knew exactly what we wanted to see in the end and proceeded to give it to us in a way that makes us have to say, wait, no, not like that! Chanel and her minions should not have needed to be set up for crimes they didn't commit to get their comeuppance! Forget all their attempted killings they aren't getting punished for. They were already on the path to being ostracized because Chanel had exposed her true self to the public thanks to hitting forward all contacts on a scathing email she intended just to send out to the minions. So this ending was not necessary. All it did was cause the real killer, who was no angel herself even before she was revealed as the killer, to escape any punishment. What, are we supposed to be happy about that just because the Chanels appear to have gotten their due? Well, we don't even get that because it turns out the Chanels like living in the asylum because they can rule there like the queens they were in Kappa, but without the public pressure. So yeah, everybody wins who you didn't want to see win. So, what's the ultimate moral of season 1 of Scream Queens? Don't read teen thriller novels on acid! This show was knocking farts! But the sad thing is that for 90% of it, it was crazy in a good way. From every actor going full hog in their performances to upbeat cover songs playing anytime someone got killed, it's clear everyone behind the show had a good time doing it and was committed to making a Wes Craven Scream film with the volume cranked up to over 9,000. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And that ending just ruined all of the goodwill that had built up to that point. It was a crazy but fun flight for 12 episodes, and then they crashed and burned on the landing. I give this first season credit for keeping its story compact for the most part, thanks to having 10 fewer episodes than normal, and not pulling an out-of-nowhere shocker on who the culprit was. But the fact that they shoved in some whole social justice message in the last 2 to 3 episodes, and left us with the characters we didn't like coming out on top just left me with the worst taste possible in my mouth. What happened in the show's second season? Give me time to recover before I get into that! But, for now, it's time to move away from the insanity and move on to celebration. Because next time, it's the 250th episode of TV Trash. And I've got something extra special planned for all of you that you're just gonna have to wait and see. Oh, screw it! Next time, we're reviewing My Little Pony!